Lightning screamed across the depths of Kunwu Hall as fate itself seemed to give chase 3 late nascent soul powers, hunting a single streak of brilliance through a storm of silver death. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. When Han Li heard the horned woman mention the tile, a flicker of surprise crossed his face before he could conceal it. When he had first obtained the object, it had seemed utterly ordinary, no more than a curious trinket. He had never imagined it possessed any true significance, and he regarded her words with instinctive skepticism. With a light slap to his waist, a streak of crimson shot forth. The tile emerged in a blur of red radiance, circled once through the air like a falling ember, and settled neatly into his palm. It was no larger than a man's hand. Crimson light pulsed faintly across its surface, waxing and waning like a dying flame, and at its center lingered a small circle of grey chi, hazy and indistinct. Han Li swept it with his spiritual sense, then focused upon it with his bright sight spirit eyes. A faint trace of satisfaction surfaced in his gaze. Lifting his arm, he sent a thread of azure light into the tile. At once the crimson glow flared brilliantly. The grey chi dispersed like mist before the sun replaced by the vivid image of a black and white spirit tortoise. He studied the wooden tile for a long while. Only when the blue luminescence faded from his eyes did he raise his head. His voice was calm yet edged with quiet realization. "So you are a vast cliff tortoise. No wonder you were able to endure the Greatnorth essence lights for so long." Fearing misunderstanding, the horned woman hurriedly explained, her voice tight with urgency. "Fellow Taoist, my words are true. This life-soul tile was personally refined by the 3 Kunwu masters. There should no longer be anyone in this world capable of crafting such a high-grade life tile. As long as it remains in your possession, my life rests in your hands." "That may be," so Han Li replied evenly, "but much depends on who holds the tile. If anyone beneath the nascent soul stage attempted to refine it and bind you as their servant, their cultivation would be insufficient and the backlash would be fatal." What? Even with the tile in your possession, fellow Taoist still feels uneasy. Her expression twisted, strained and unsightly. "Of course I do," he answered coldly. "Even if I refine it, my control over you would only be temporary. Should you risk everything, you might break free for a fleeting instant and betray me. I have no desire to live in constant vigilance. Tell me, what value is there in sparing you?" With each word, his expression darkened. Above his head, the yang ring began to hum, its resonance low and ominous. The silver threads binding the woman trembled in response, tightening faintly as though stirred by an unseen storm. Panic surged in her heart. "Fellow Taoist," she cried hastily, "if you remain uneasy, I am willing to separate a portion of my soul and add it to the tile. Should I harbor even the slightest malicious thought, you would sense it at once." "Oh," his tone was indifferent. "That method will suffice. Since you've offered it yourself, proceed." She hesitated, but only for a heartbeat. Meeting his unyielding gaze, she steeled herself and struck the back of her own head without further delay. A burst of black and white light flared from her crown, and a crimson nascent soul emerged, hovering above her like a phantom born of blood and spirit. It opened its tiny mouth and expelled a fist-sized sphere of green radiance. Her face contorted in pain as the green light quivered in the air, then split unevenly into 2 portions. The larger half circled once before returning to the nascent soul's mouth. The smaller fragment remained suspended, drifting slowly toward Han Li. Without a word, he raised the life-soul tile. Crimson light flashed brilliantly. The green fragment was drawn into the tile with a clear, resonant chime. When Han Li lowered his gaze, he saw that the black and white tortoise within had grown strikingly vivid. Its eyes seemed to gleam with awareness as it lifted its head toward him, lifelike and profound. Only then did he truly relax. Opening his mouth, he swallowed the tile, drawing it into his body. The horned woman felt her heart turn cold. Unless she reached the deity transformation stage, there would be no hope of ever breaking free from his grasp. Han Li raised a hand and gestured lightly toward the ring above him. The Greatnorth essence light surrounding her dispersed at once. In a blur, he appeared before her. His gaze fell upon her ruined arm, and his brows knit faintly. With a flick of his finger, black radiance shimmered outward. The yin ring answered his call, forming a protective barrier that shut out the lingering strands of silver light. He withdrew the yang ring and spoke in a casual tone. "Be at ease. I have no intention of binding you for eternity. When I perish or ascend to the spirit realm, I will release you. I do not plan to pass you down to any clan or sect. Fellow Taoist, are your words sincere?" Hope ignited in her eyes. Unbothered by her more familiar tone, Han Li merely smiled faintly. "In time you will see. To spirit beasts such as yourself, the lifespan of a human is insignificant. Serve faithfully and diligently, and I will not treat you unjustly. You may even come to find that becoming my spirit beast is not such a misfortune." She gave a wry chuckle. "So long as you keep your word, I will not object to following your commands." "Enough," he said calmly, producing a small bottle. "Take this first. Recover your magic power and your injuries." "Recover my magic power? Could this be—" Suspicion flickered across her face as she removed the stopper. At once incomparably pure spiritual chi spilled forth. With his hands clasped behind his back, Han Li replied leisurely, "A drop of myriad-year spirit milk. It should suffice to restore your strength. I will require your assistance." "Many thanks, fellow Taoist." She murmured her gratitude before swallowing the drop. The moment it flowed through her meridians, boundless spiritual power blossomed within her like spring water breaking through winter ice. Joy lit her features. Forming an incantation gesture, she channeled black and white light around her body. Her gaze fell upon her mutilated arm as she began to chant in a low voice. To Han Li's astonishment, the light gathered at the wound. Fresh flesh sprouted wildly, sinew and skin weaving together at visible speed. In the span of a single breath, her arm was whole once more. "An undying body," he exclaimed. Such an ability was exceedingly rare, possessed by only a handful of demon beasts. He had witnessed it once before from the flame toad in Devilfall Valley. Yet compared to that creature, her regenerative power seemed leagues beyond. The injury had vanished as though it had never existed. It appeared that he had subdued her by sheer fortune. Had they not been within the Greatnorth essence light, had her magic power not already been severely depleted by traversing it, the battle would never have ended so easily. What he did not know was that she had also been weakened by passing through the restrictions of the Goldweight spirit. Trees. Otherwise, she could have resisted far longer. After all, a 10th grade demon beast possessed cultivation far deeper than he could fully comprehend. The horned woman flexed her restored arm satisfaction, softening her features. The spirit milk lives up to its legendary reputation. Without it, I would have required 3 full days to recover. Annie regarded her thoughtfully. "What should I call you? Since you were with the Night Fiend, you must have heard of me." "My name is Gui Ling," she replied after a brief pause. "Indeed, I have heard of you, at least of your abilities." A faint smile curved his lips. "We will speak of that another time. As for you, fellow Taoist Gi, your cultivation and innate abilities are truly remarkable. Though I control your life-soul tile, I cannot treat you as some low-grade beast. When matters settle, I intend to treat you as an ally. Then I must thank you." She inclined her head slightly, then hesitated. "Earlier you mentioned requiring my help." A trace of worry lingered in her eyes. She feared he might order her to strike at the other 2 demon guardians. Though their bond was shallow, they were still acquaintances. A cold glint flashed in Han Li's gaze. "In a moment, old Devil Qian will enter this place. When he does, you and I will join forces and kill him." Relief flickered across her face. "You mean the late nascent soul cultivator who practices devilish arts?" "The very same." His smile turned icy. "Originally, I had not intended to act against him yet. His movement techniques are exceedingly strange. Even with control over the lights here, capturing him alive would have been difficult. But with your assistance, it becomes possible." In that case, I will aid you to the best of my ability, Guiling said, genuine delight coloring her tone. Then I leave it to you. When you strike, spare his nascent soul. There are questions I require answered. She glanced at him, hesitation surfacing once more. Forgive my frankness, but even with advantage on our side, killing him is no simple matter. His techniques allow him to traverse this place unhindered. Severely injuring him may be feasible, but if he focuses solely on escape, I doubt the two of us could restrain him. That is true, Han Li admitted, an enigmatic expression settling upon his face. It would indeed be difficult for the two of us. He paused, then added softly, but what if we had a late nascent soul cultivator on our side? Guiling instinctively swept her spiritual sense outward. The surroundings were lifeless and silent. She turned back to him, utterly bewildered. There is another late nascent soul cultivator here. Near the rear reaches of Kunwu Hall, a colossal shuttle tore through the air like a dragon forged from lightning. Its sleek frame shimmered with blinding brilliance as it shot forward at breakneck speed. Behind it, a silver sphere, a roiling cloud of violet mist, and a streak of crimson light pursued relentlessly. Their auras colliding in violent ripples. Multicolored radiance erupted again and again as torrents of attacks rained down upon the shuttle. Yet its surface blazed with resplendent light, repelling every strike as though brushing aside falling leaves. The Sun-Moon shuttle lived up to its legendary name as one of the three great shuttles of the cultivation world. For now, not a single assault could pierce its defenses. Within its interior, Lady Mu stood at the helm, pouring every thread of magic power she possessed into the shuttle's formation. Her expression was taut with strain as she maneuvered desperately to evade the storm of attacks. At her side, her beautiful junior martial sister clutched the Four Skies ruler tightly against her chest. Her face was bloodless, her lashes trembling over half-closed eyes. The forced activation of a divine spirit treasure replica had exacted a grievous toll. Fellow Taoist, Qian Lady Mu called out, her voice echoing from within the shuttle. Do you truly intend to join hands with those demons? The treasure we obtained is meant to reseal the mountain for the safety of our world. Her cultivation was far inferior to that of her pursuers. Even with the shuttle's protection, her magic power was draining at a terrifying pace. From within the crimson streak came old Devil Qian's cold laughter. Spare me your sanctimonious prattle. Do you take me for a naive child? I am not allied with those demons. I am merely displeased by your audacity. A trifling sect such as yours dares contend against me. If you possess even a shred of sense, hand over the treasures you seized, and the divine spirit treasure replica as well. Lady Mu's lips parted, then closed. In the face of one of the 10 great sect's grand elders, her own sect's prestige amounted to little more than dust. Under the combined assault of 3 late nascent soul powers, even the Sun-Moon shuttle began to dim. Its once blazing radiance flickered as it was gradually forced toward a corner of the vast hall. A cruel gleam surfaced in old Devil Qian's eyes. He gathered his strength, preparing to unleash a decisive strike, when suddenly a solemn Buddhist chant resounded from within the shuttle. White lotuses bloomed in mid-air petals, unfolding in silent splendor. From their heart, a white ruler shot forth like a beam of divine judgment. Not good. Whether demon or devil, all three recoiled at once. Having once suffered the ruler's illusory, might none dared test it again. In that fleeting heartbeat of hesitation, the shuttle vanished. As the white ruler swept back inside, the Sun-Moon shuttle reappeared behind its pursuers and shot toward the exit in a flash of searing light. The white lotuses dispersed soundlessly, mere illusions, empty and insubstantial. Realization struck. Old Devil Qian and the 2 demons burned with fury at having been deceived. Without delay, they gave chase. But they were already too late. The shuttle had plunged into the Greatnorth essence light. Silver strands of light lashed toward it, yet the shuttle's radiant barrier repelled them effortlessly. Within, Lady Mu maintained a solemn incantation gesture. In her grasp rested a gleaming silver medallion from which streams of argent light flowed, enveloping the shuttle in a second protective barrier. Her junior martial sister, however, was at her limit. The earlier activation of the Four Skies ruler had ravaged her meridians. She could no longer even lift her hands. Though fully occupied, Lady Mu stole anxious glances at her, worry etched deep into her features. The younger woman offered a faint smile, pale but resolute. Senior martial sister need not worry. A few years of recuperation will suffice. I pray that is so, Lady Mu replied helplessly. Your cultivation is not yet sufficient to wield it so many times. It was our only chance to wrest the Dragon Call crest from those formidable foes. If not for that cunning Taoist Han, we would have taken the treasures and departed without such peril. Lady Mu forced a bitter smile, though inwardly she shuddered at the memory of the Tri-Flame fan. Behind them, streaks of light pierced into the Greatnorth essence light, their pursuers close on their heels. Had it not been for the profundity of the Sun-Moon shuttle, the two women would already have fallen. Old Devil Chen and the demons understood this well, which was why they pressed their pursuit without mercy. Yet the moment they entered the Greatnorth essence light, something felt amiss. With the silver medallion's aid, the two women activated the illusionary restriction embedded within the formation. Though the restriction posed little true danger to late nascent soul cultivators, it was more than sufficient to delay them. By the time Old Devil Chen shattered the illusion, the shuttle was gone. Fury twisted his expression. The two demons, meanwhile, regarded him with cold, calculating gazes. Sensing their scrutiny, Old Devil Qian's eyes narrowed. What? Do you intend to turn on me? The Night Fiend hesitated, weighing the odds in a single breath. In the end, he chuckled lightly. Of course not. We would never commit such folly against one of your cultivation. With a low call, he summoned the Lionhawk. The two demons departed at once. Their life-soul tiles were already secured. There was no need to entangle themselves further. Watching them vanish, Old Devil Chen let out a frigid laugh. His crimson incarnation shifted direction and sped away. The red mass flowed through the countless silver strands of the Greatnorth essence light as though they were insubstantial, weaving left and right until it broke free from the illusionary snare. Relief flickered across his features. Then he stopped. His eyes glowed with a deep, ominous crimson. Whoever is hiding there, scram, as expected of the Grand Elder of the Yin-sifting sect. Brother Chen's perception is indeed profound. A calm voice echoed from beside a stone pillar ahead. In a blur of black light, Han Li revealed himself, a dark barrier shimmering faintly around him. Han Li. Old Devil Chen's gaze sharpened. His cheek twitched as he noticed how effortlessly Han Li endured the Greatnorth essence light. You've been here for some time, he said coldly. Waiting for me. You're perceptive. Han Li's expression remained placid. My request is simple. Brother Qian, would you be willing to provide a copy of the incantation to dissolve the Soul Seal curse? The Soul Seal curse. Old Devil Qian repeated, a trace of surprise surfacing. Then he threw back his head and laughed. I know not why you seek it, but do you truly think I would tell you? Han Li sighed softly. I suspected as much. Still, it seemed worth asking. After all, refining the soul of a Grand Elder from one of the 10 great sects would make it difficult for me to remain in Great Yin. At those words, Old Devil Qian's gaze turned razor-sharp. You intend to refine my soul? His tone was eerily calm. Let us see if you possess the capability. Call forth the one aiding you. A mere mid-nascent soul cultivator would not dare speak so brazenly alone. As you wish. Fellow Taoist Gi, please step forth. A pillar beside Old Devil Qian shimmered. Guiling emerged clad in crimson armor, a black rod resting in her hand. You, his eyes flickered. What did he offer you? I can double it. Guiling snorted coldly and slammed the rod against the ground. Your life will suffice. Bound by circumstance and sullen at her loss of freedom, she had no patience for bargaining. Though anger flashed in Old Devil Qian's heart, his face remained composed. He swiftly swept his spiritual sense through the surroundings. No one else. Relief flickered faintly. If it was only the two of them, escape was not impossible. Without another word, his body flared crimson and shot away in a streak of light, no intention of trading blows. Hanley had anticipated this. With a wave of his sleeve, a black ring appeared in his hand. The air trembled. Within 100 meters, the Greatnorth essence light rang clearly, then surged inward, condensing into a dense, radiant wall. Old Devil Qian's crimson incarnation was formidable, nearly indestructible, but at the sight of the silver strands gathering into a suffocating barrier, he halted abruptly. That single instant was enough. Guiling swung her black rod. Countless identical rods materialized above Old Devil Qian's head like a descending forest of iron. Before they could fall, however, his entire body stiffened as though seized by invisible chains. His heart trembled. At the same moment, Han Li pointed toward his yang ring. Silver strands converged, weaving into a vast net that sealed the space around the Old Devil. Alarmed Old Devil Qian let out a savage roar. The crimson incarnation blazed with spiritual light. Its abdomen bulged grotesquely. Then, with a muffled explosion, the body burst apart. Crimson threads scattered in all directions. The descending rods struck empty air. The net of silver light closed upon nothing. 30 meters away, the scattered threads coalesced, twisting and weaving together. In the blink of an eye, the crimson incarnation reformed whole and unmarred, as if it had never been struck at all. Although Han Li had never believed Old Devil Qian would fall so easily, he had not anticipated the sheer elusiveness of the man's devilish arts. His body had turned nearly incorporeal, not through ghostly transformation, but through a profound devil Dao technique that rendered his flesh into that of an undying devil. Hanley had read of such methods in ancient records. In antiquity, many elder devils had assumed this very form, bringing untold calamity upon the cultivators of their era. To witness it with his own eyes was nothing short of astonishing. Yet awe did not dull his resolve. Without hesitation, Hanli opened his mouth and expelled a sphere of purple flame. The fireball swelled instantly to the size of a chariot, its blazing surface crackling as it hurtled after the crimson silhouette. One hand guided the vast net of Greatnorth essence light in relentless pursuit, while the other slashed through the air, releasing a dense bolt of golden lightning that boomed like heavenly thunder descending upon the mortal world. At his side, Guiling swept her black rod through the air again and again. Each motion gave birth to countless identical phantoms, which converged upon Old Devil Qian like a raging tempest of iron. Within the Greatnorth essence, light neither side dared rely heavily upon tangible treasures. A single miscalculation could result in the formation's silver strands reducing one's prized artifact to dust. For the first time, Old Devil Qian found himself truly pressed. Attacks closed in from every direction. The tide of battle had shifted subtly yet decisively. Rage surged in his heart, gritting his teeth. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat forth a sphere of grey radiance wrapped in threads of crimson blood essence. It shot forward to intercept the bolt of golden lightning. The two forces collided with a dull, suffocating bang. A faint trail of green smoke lingered in the air before both attacks vanished without a trace. In that fleeting pause, Old Devil Qian's body began to spin rapidly. 5 clouds of dense white qi burst forth around him. They swelled to 6 meters in diameter, and from each emerged a slender human skeleton, bones immaculate and polished like jade, yet wreathed in strands of frigid, sinister qi. The true bodies of the Unbreakable Cinque devils had descended. The instant the 5 skeletons manifested, they exhaled streams of green flame. At first glance, the flames appeared ordinary, no more than ghostly fire. Yet when 2 of the streams collided with Han Li's purple apex flames, they locked in a tense stalemate, neither side yielding. The remaining 3 streams fused together, forming a wall of viridescent fire that barred the advancing net of Greatnorth essence light. Meanwhile, the descending storm of rod phantoms pressed down upon Old Devil Qian with crushing invisible force, binding him in place. This time, however, he did not detonate his body. That desperate technique consumed far too much magic power. He would not squander it lightly. Having summoned the true bodies of the Cinque Devils, he had other designs in mind. With a silent command, the 5 skeletons blurred and repositioned themselves around him. Raising their bony hands in unison, they conjured a grey barrier that enveloped both themselves and their master. The rod phantoms descended. Explosions thundered through the air in rapid succession. Black and grey light flared violently, shockwaves rippling outward with heart-shaking force. Even Han Li could not help but marvel at the display. This vast cliff tortoise was formidable indeed. In their earlier clash, exhaustion had clearly prevented her from revealing even half her strength. Otherwise, subduing her would have been no simple matter. Yet what astonished him more was the resilience of the grey barrier. When the final echo of the explosions faded and the rod phantoms dissipated, the barrier remained scarred yet intact. Guiling's expression darkened. With a cold snort, she opened her mouth and expelled a cloud of black and white essence onto the rod in her hand. A clear chime rang out. Light erupted from the weapon as its form shifted, reshaping into a massive hatchet. She flicked her wrist and lifted it high, murmuring an incantation under her breath. Dazzling silver light flooded its surface, overwhelming its original hue. In the span of a heartbeat, the hatchet expanded monstrously over 30 meters in length. Its blade gleamed like a sliver of dawn, cleaving through night, its haft as thick as a grown man's torso. As if a seal had been broken, an overwhelming surge of baleful chi burst forth, wild and savage. Even at a distance, Han Li could sense the axe's bloodthirsty edge, restless and hungry. Hostility flared in Guiling's eyes. Her body swelled violently, bones creaking, flesh expanding. In moments, she towered over 20 meters tall. Han Li inhaled sharply, his expression shifting. The giant augmentation technique. To think you possess such mastery. Your cultivation has already reached the pinnacle of the late nascent soul stage. As he spoke, his gaze flickered briefly toward a certain region of the Greatnorth essence light. His expression went blank for an instant, then hardened with icy resolve. His sleeve trembled. The tri-flame fan appeared in his grasp. Guiling seized the colossal silver axe with both hands and cast her gaze downward at old Devil Qian. Then she struck. A 10-meter arc of silver radiance burst from the blade, slicing through the air with a shrill whistle. In its wake, a pale scar lingered like space itself had been torn open. Old Devil Qian's pupils constricted. Though confident in his Cinque Devils, he did not dare meet that strike head-on. Without hesitation, he produced a short, snow-white blade and brought it down toward his own hand. Before the flesh was severed, he spat a mouthful of crimson blood upon it. In an instant, the blood essence fused with the blade. It elongated grotesquely, transforming into a meter-long crimson saber, narrow, jagged, and wickedly sharp. Gripping the saber, he swung it with grave determination. The blade vanished. At the same moment, the 5 skeletons warped in front of him, positioning themselves to intercept the incoming crescent. Contrary to Han Li's expectations, when the crimson and silver lights collided, there was no thunderous explosion, no deafening roar. Only silent brilliance filled the sky. Within that brilliance, the slender crimson saber twisted unnaturally, bending at impossible angles as though under unbearable strain. Then, the 5 skeletons leapt forward and merged into one. Bones fused, ribs interlocked, limbs elongated. In the blink of an eye, a colossal skeleton stood in their place, towering, monstrous, its stature rivaling Guiling's. A brittle crack rang out. The crimson saber shattered into fragments. The silver crescent had sliced clean through. The giant skeleton threw back its skull and released a wild, grating cackle. Grey mist poured from its mouth, dense, concentrated, seemingly distilled from pure essence. The silver crescent struck the mist, yet instead of cleaving through it, slowed like a blade sinking into viscous tar. A sharp hum resonated as the once dazzling arc was stained grey, then utterly devoured. The mist circled lazily before returning to the skull's mouth. Guiling roared fury flashing in her eyes. Corrupting devil chi. Your devils were refined from nascent soul cultivators, weren't they? Ordinary corpses could never produce such vile power. Old Devil Chien laughed coldly. What materials I used are none of your concern, demon. Since you recognize its might, you may as well experience its full strength. He formed several spell seals and struck them into the giant skeleton. A piercing drone filled the air, crimson light ignited within its empty eye sockets. The behemoth began striding toward Guiling, each step sending tremors through the ground like the march of an ancient war god. Hanley's gaze sharpened. He unfolded the triflame fan, fully tension coiling in his chest, then slowly easing as calculation replaced instinct. With a swift motion, he released the yang ring. Resonant hums echoed. Above him, the Greatnorth essence light surged into towering silver waves. Specks of brilliance flickered endlessly as innumerable strands shot forth in a dense barrage toward the advancing skeleton. The skull emitted a shrill whistle. A layer of grey radiance bloomed across its surface. The first wave of silver strands struck and scattered harmlessly. Hanley's expression tightened. He poured greater magic power into the yang ring. The air trembled. This time the silver strands did not strike individually. They converged mid-flight, twisting together into dozens of thick rope-like beams before vanishing in a blur. A series of sharp pops resounded. When the light faded, more than a dozen thumb-sized holes riddled the giant skeleton's body, some piercing clean through its skull. The corrupting devil chi had failed to stop the condensed assault. By forcing the Greatnorth essence light to coalesce, Hanli had multiplied its destructive power. For an instant, a trace of satisfaction flickered across his face. Then it vanished. His expression darkened once more,